Good evening. Welcome into GarageBand Weekly for yet another week here on Studio Live today. My name's Pete Johnson. For the next hour or so, we'll be chatting about GarageBand, about Logic, about Apple, about iPhones and iPads and Macs and all that jazz. So if you've got questions, please feel free to throw those here in the chat. Just put a big Q in front of them if you do have a question, or if you just got a comment or you want to talk about something GarageBand related or adjacent, go ahead and do that. Feature topic today: why do people still hate on GarageBand so much? After all these years, after GarageBand proving time and time again that it is a viable platform for producing music, why people got to hate? We'll be talking a little bit about that later. We got some news and notes for you as well. And again, we are interactive around here, so feel free to throw any of your thoughts or comments in the chat. We are brought to you, as we are each and every week, by me. Yes, this is self-funded and self-sponsored, this show. This is the GarageBand iOS guide, not guide, FAQ, because there's another bloke who has guide as his main naming convention. But you can jump over to studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand. If you're starting out with GarageBand, 'cause I know many people are maybe a little newer to the community and newer to creating music, start here. GarageBand 5-minute tip series. There's over 50, maybe even 60 of them now, and this will help get you started. This will teach you everything you need to know to maybe work around some of those limitations that we'll be talking about a little bit later on. So, yeah, once again, studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand for the GarageBand FAQ that will give you everything you need to know. And as always, our wonderful moderator, Thomas Christ, is on the ball, and he's got the link there ready to go for you all right there in giant mode that time. I really do have to fix the links when we do these shows, and I'm using Ecamm every time. Thomas is probably pulling his hair out because he's told me how to fix these before and keep them consistent. But every time I start a new show, I've got to resize these and put them into the right spot. So apologies for that, for the lack of professionalism, but that you've come to expect around here. Hello to all the folks who are here live, by the way. G'day, Ed B. Medal. Hello to Barry Glenn. Eric B. is here. Oof, Sibaba is here. Mr. Mark Bro. Mark, speaking of GarageBand, I think Mark just got himself a new iPad, which is a bit exciting. We've got Deep Gravities here again. Happy Tuesday morning to you. Yeah, the background is a bit weird, isn't it? There's some bizarre things going on there. I don't know what that is. See, when I use AI, I like to just embrace the wackiness. I don't like to try and replicate something that's going to fool you into thinking it's real. So, yeah, that guitar, is that the back of it? Is that its strap? Or, yeah, did something very horrible happen to that guitar? I don't know. Hello to Al Davis Music. I hope you are well. We've got a Tremor Bear here. We have a Joe Glenn as well. How are you? Joe and Barry have recently switched from GarageBand to Logic Pro. Hope your Logic Pro journey is going okay. Hey, it's Bradley McKnight. Hello to you. Good to see some folks we haven't seen in a while. Hello, Lars Guitars. Yeah, the old pancake guitar is a bit of an interesting one, isn't it? I'm doing fine. Oh, hello, Moto Kyle 96. You can probably hear my voice is still a little bit crackly. Weirdly, I went on a vacation last week. And have you ever had that thing where you go on holiday and then you come back and you almost need a holiday to get over your holiday? Yeah, it was a little bit of that for me. So I'm getting better, but this is the last live show of the week. So the voice just needs to hold out a little longer. Just spent hours trying to figure out why the monitor level dropped so much using high gain. Turned off crosstalk protection. Yes, I've talked about crosstalk protection before, and maybe I need to make another video specifically about it because there's mic stands floating a bit here too, are there? Yep. It's all happening here. Sorry, I'm just reading this from Barry. Yeah, the crosstalk protection is something that only comes up occasionally, but when it does, it can actually be the complete game changer that you're looking for. So what that does is it's to stop you getting crosstalk. It's to stop you having monitoring going back in through your signal. But sometimes you need either on or off, and it's just one of those ones that you just push the button and it changes. It's a bit like the MIDI. If you're wondering about all of those, I've got advanced GarageBand settings. So if you search Pete John's advanced settings GarageBand, if my search engine optimization is up to scratch, it should be there. There you go. So there's a couple of videos there about your advanced and the hidden settings that are in GarageBand that can help you out. So go and check those out. Joe says, still prefer to start the projects in GarageBand and then go to Logic. Yeah. The shirt, yeah, this is the original, the OG GarageBand users shirts. I don't know if they're still available. The logo was designed by Ron Ward. I've got one. I know Jade has one, and others have these shirts. Maybe I need to find the design and resell them, because I sold them at because GarageBand Users Group is a Facebook group, and it's just it's for fun. So I sold these at cost just through my store just to make it easy. So maybe I'll need to find it. All right. Where are we at? Yeah, news and notes. Let's talk about those, shall we? So, not a heap to talk about. It's a quiet time of the year. There's no Apple news per se. There's no new events. There's no new hardware. Software-wise, iPadOS and iOS 18.1.1 is out now, and 95% of people have updated and have said it's absolutely fine, and about 5% of people said it's messed stuff up. So you know the rules here, folks. The same rules apply as always do, which is that if you're in the middle of a major project, if you're doing something that is mission critical, don't update. Please, for the love of your deity of choice, don't update if you're right in the middle of something. What people have been reporting is that some of your AUV3 plugins, people have been mentioning Ravenscroft and Central Sax, which always seem to be ones, because I've recommended them in the past. Yeah, they tend to get broken by iOS updates more often than any other apps. And I don't really know why that is the case, but just seems to be the way. So yeah, until they get updated to sort of catch up, or until the iOS is patched to 18.1.2, don't update. And by the way, if you ever do update, you can't downdate, and as Mark is saying here, you can join the beta program, and pretty much anyone, if you just go to Apple's developer site, I think you just go, I can't even remember, it's like developer.apple.com. But if you just type in Apple developer in your search engine of choice, if we jump over to here, you can basically join the Apple App Developer Program. And what that does is it allows you to use the beta. So if you're broken anyway and it can't get much worse, you might as well switch to the beta program, at least short term. And you can do that. I'll jump over here onto my iPad and I'll just show you this real quick, because it's probably relevant for some folks. What my iPad sizing just keeps going strange. I'll just unplug and replug this. I'm having a few hardware technical difficulties, so hold the line here. It's these weird little HDMI to USB adapters that sometimes, sometimes they size up to just a ridiculously large size, and sometimes they work fine. So if we're in here, you can see here I've got beta updates off. So I always have my my updates to download only. So make sure that you don't automatically install those. Security responses and system fixes I do, because I don't want to be any 0-day defects or anything like that. But you can actually come in here once you've joined the developer program. You can turn beta back on, and then you can update to iPadOS 18.2. And then you can check out some of the other new Apple Intelligence and other features. Speaking of which, that is the topic that we are starting with here. So the first news and note, well, actually that was the first one. So iPadOS 18.1.1. Again, there's no security updates in there, so only update if you really are not doing anything critical and you're willing to accept that something might not quite go to plan. Joe says, just finally, after much soul-searching, have purchased a 5th Gen iPad Pro 1TB. Financial advisor says no holidays and cancel Christmas. Anxiety setting in. Well, the good news is that in terms of buying iPads, and I know Mark Bro, I think, picked up the iPad Air, any iPad that has an M-series chip, you're absolutely golden with right now. I've moved from the 2020 iPad, which was the last A-series iPad Pro, to the M2, and now to the M4. The difference between the A series chip and the M series was huge in terms of performance. So, zero latency and lag, like opening apps and moving between things, zero crashes, zero optimizing performance type stuff in the M series. M2 and to M4, it's overkill. In fact, M1 is fine, is absolutely top notch because there was just such a jump between the A series and the M series chip. There was such a jump, and nothing, I don't care if you're using Logic Pro with 50 plugins, nothing is using even the 8 gigabytes, but especially the 16 gigabytes of RAM you're getting with a 1 terabyte model of the M1, M2, or M4. So if you have an iPad with an M in front of it, you're set. And I reckon you're set for a good 4 or 5 years. Only possible thing that could change all that is AI, the Apple Intelligence stuff, if that's going to change things up. Speaking of which, Apple Intelligence, I've put a link to a Marques Brownlee video in the description because I don't like to reinvent the wheel and talk about things that have already been covered by a much more knowledgeable person than I. So go watch that if you want to find out, is the hype actually worth it? Because here's the thing, right now, if you go to apple.com, which I'll do here just for shits and giggles, the very first thing that you'll see on almost every page and every screen is something like this. Hello, Apple Intelligence. They really are pushing and leading with Apple Intelligence across all of their products. Like everything is talking about Apple Intelligence. Yet, Apple Intelligence is kind of like half-baked at this point in time. There's not a lot in there. People are thinking, oh, it must have a new Siri. No, not really. All the Siri changes, not even in there yet. Oh, it must have all sorts of cool AI searching functionality. Not really. Like they don't really have that integration set up properly yet. So I've tried some of the things. Some of the things like the writing tools are fine. But I don't know. There's nothing in there that's not already being done by something else. And the promise that Apple gave us with Apple Intelligence, as opposed to other AI, artificial intelligence, is that it would link in with all of our personal data, with our apps, with all the things we do on our devices. But none of that's here yet. And until it's here, which is probably not going to be till next year, or definitely next year now, we're in December. I don't know. I don't know that it's worth it. So the one thing that might make you want to upgrade and update your iPhone or your iPad to the a higher series chip is a little bit of a fizzer at this point in time. So to me, that means that if you are already on an iPhone 13, 14, 15, 16, I don't think there's any urgency there right now until Apple Intelligence proves that it needs to be used. And I hope it does. I honestly hope that all of the things that they've been saying that are going to be quality of life improvements, that are going to be things like it's going to preempt what I want to do, if it's better at filling in forms with my data, because sometimes it works. You know, you do that thing where you put your name in, sometimes it works, but it needs to be more intelligent. It needs to know that if it's a business tax form, as soon as I put Studio Live today, it fills in my business address, not my residential address. Like, there's got to be little things that it can do to help out. But we will find out in the future. But for right now, I don't think so. I don't think it's all that worth it. One final thing I just wanted to talk about, and I thought this was interesting for those who are YouTube creators. YouTube have added something new. And I know this isn't Apple related or GarageBand related, but it is kind of is for me because it is a new feature called inspiration. Ooh, inspiration. What will we be inspired by? So if you go to your content, so if you go to your YouTube studio and your content here, it gives you this inspiration tab. And I'd be interested to know if you've got a music channel where you're sort of sharing your songs and sharing your videos, what's it going to tell you here? Because I haven't actually clicked this yet, but I've watched other people do it. So I thought we would come in here live. And the idea of this is it lets you brainstorm. And it's got this Google Gemini box here. So it's brainstorm video ideas, and it gives you these. So this used to be in YouTube, but this was buried in the analytics. So you had to go deep into the analytics to find all this. And now they clearly want more people to make more videos that are going to get more clicks and views. So thanks for that, I guess, YouTube. But interestingly, look at this. Ultimate GarageBand iOS workflow for beginners is what it thinks most people will have very high interest in. Logic Pro iPad versus GarageBand iOS, which is right for you. I have done similar videos before. Hidden features every creator should know. Ooh, hidden iPad features every creator should know. iPad music production, pro tips and tricks. There you go. And GarageBand versus FL Studio Mobile, a deep dive. That only has medium interest. Sorry, Fruity Loops users. So you can describe a topic here to create ideas, and then it will use sort of what YouTube knows about what people like to see in their titles, and it helps you design. So let's say guide to hidden GarageBand settings, something we were talking about earlier. And let's see what it tells me I should create. GarageBand iOS hidden gems for pro sound. That has very high interest. GarageBand iOS secret track editing tips. Master GarageBand iOS advanced mixing tricks. So look, is it going to help me in the future? Maybe. Understanding the power of automation. That's actually a really good one. And I like the way that's written. GarageBand iOS understanding or unleashing the power of automation. I like it. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you that because when you see a bunch of videos with weird titles coming out in the future, you'll be like, Pete's been in the old inspiration tab again, hasn't he? Yeah. A lot of Apple Intelligence will come with version 18.2, probably later this week or next Monday. Yeah. And again, if you want a sneak preview of that, check out the Marquez video I've put in the description. Other devices don't have the AI built in already or some sort of it. So look, it depends on your definition of AI, doesn't it? AI has kind of been morphed into generative model, meaning AI, whereas really AI means any sort of artificial intelligence or any sort of automation or any sort of algorithmic manipulation of data. So yeah, we've had AI. Since GarageBand was launched, it's had AI. The auto drummer wouldn't work without some sort of AI. But what it's been redefined as are these tools. So we're talking about generative AI, being able to generate images, being able to generate text, being able to manipulate data, usually using things like a large language model. So yeah, and the difference is in terms of devices for Apple, it's only the iPhone 16 Pro, no, 15 Pro and 16 and 16 Pro that have the compatible chip. So you won't be getting any of the features on your phone unless you've got a 15 Pro or better, which is a little bit sad. So if you've got an older iPhone or an older iPad, then there you go. All right. Is it okay to dump? Is that an idea for a video? I'd hope so. Yeah. Fruity Loops 3.4. I was starting on it. Yeah, nice. Yeah, everyone's got a bit of a Fruity Loop story. I think so. As Thomas says, AI is really a marketing term, and it's been added to everything. You can't look at a product now that doesn't say it has some sort of AI, and I'm frankly a little bit over it. I don't think that my dishwasher needs to have AI. Well, and it already has. It's already had I've got like a 20-year-old washing machine, and it doesn't have AI, but it says intelligent automatic. So it it senses when the clothes are done, or the dryer, actually, not the washing machine. It says like automatic sensing for when the clothes are dried. And now, if you sold that same product, it would totally be like uses an AI algorithm to determine the optimal drying performance. Is it okay? Well, what you could do is you could use the writing tools to soften it. So if you wrote something that's like, you dumped, you suck, me go get new one now, it would go, these last 3 months have meant so much to me, and I do wish you all the best. It's not you, it's me. So maybe you can use AI to soften your text a little bit. Do we have any other news and notes? I don't think we did. No, that was it. So if you do have questions, comments, other things that you want to talk about, feel free to throw those in the chat. This show each week is a little bit more of a laid back kind of show, which is why we're going to talk about a topic here that I've covered before. And it always kind of creates a little bit of angst and controversy because there's kind of two sorts of people out there that I've found online. And it's a bit like the Mac versus PC or the Android versus iOS kind of debate. But there are GarageBand lovers that wear GarageBand on their chest like me. And then there's GarageBand haters. And look, there are people in between, but there's this giant chasm, this big gap of misunderstanding when it comes to GarageBand. And the problem is in the name. I think I've said this for a long time now, but I've always thought that the biggest issue that GarageBand has is the fact that it's called GarageBand. And I get it. Like when Steve Jobs stood up there, I've told this a bunch of times. He stood up there with old mate. I can never remember the dude, musician guy. No, someone will remember. I always Jason, someone. And he said, "This is the music tool for non-musicians. This is going to help everyone create music, and it's going to be available for everyone." And look, that was a great selling point at the time because there was nothing like it. Music software like Cakewalk at the time, and like Logic and other things were really complicated. They were complex beasts. They were hard to use. No one had ever really cracked the whole here is a bunch of nice, pretty icons, and you can make music by just selecting the instrument you want and playing it in. You can, in those days, in the Mac version, you could use like loops and sounds and synthesizers and all these sort of things. Plugging in your guitar was really easy. You didn't have to learn about inputs and sends and receives and buses. You basically just plugged in and said, play now, grabbed an amp or grabbed a preset and started playing. So things were a lot simpler in GarageBand land. But the problem was John Mayer. It was John Mayer, wasn't it? Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate you. And welcome aboard. Um, yeah, like when it was released, they showed it off, and Steve Jobs was like, "Yeah, I'm not a musician, but now I can create music, and so can you." And that was great for the time. But it kind of, I think there are some people that was their first and only actual experience with GarageBand. Because if you were a professional with a Pro Tools HD rig at that time, and you saw that there's this new software called GarageBand, of course your first thought is, well, that's a kiddie toy. That's not going to be for me. There's no way someone can make professional music by just using GarageBand. And there's a lot of people that still think that to this day. And there's a few reasons why they're right, and there's many more reasons why they're wrong. So that's what I wanted to talk about here today. The name is obviously a challenge. The freeness of it. Now, you may not be aware of this. I know many of you are, because a lot of you are Apple GarageBand fans like me. But GarageBand wasn't free. GarageBand wasn't free in the early days. You actually had to buy it. It was part of a suite called was it iLife or iCreate or something? So there was the iMovie and there was GarageBand, but you actually had to pay for it. It wasn't much. I think it was $7.99 or something to buy it. Or maybe I'm getting confused with the iPad version, because I definitely had to buy the iPad version. Maybe the Mac version came for free from the get-go. But yeah, the fact that it is free, it is included software. There's something about free that makes people think poor quality. And yes, every time I say GarageBand is free, my comments fill with people that tell me GarageBand isn't free. You have to buy $1,000 Mac before you can use GarageBand. And they always talk like that too, by the way. You have to buy $1,000 iPad or $1,000 phone or $1,000 Mac to use GarageBand. And I mean, you don't. You can buy a $300 iPad vanilla and use GarageBand just fine, or you can buy a secondhand refurbished MacBook Air for $500 and use it just fine. But I get their point that included doesn't mean free, because you're still paying for the whole infrastructure. Excuse me. We'll get through. I should have water here, not coffee, to drink as we go through this. Yeah, back in the day it was like you could buy the iPad version that did cost you money, and I think I bought it in a bundle with iMovie and something else. MB says, I remember buying GarageBand 1 for Mac OS 9 back in the days, before there were even iOS devices. Yeah, and it was. And I get iLife. Was it the iLife? Yeah, iLife Suite. So, so I think the fact that it was free, a lot of people said, hey, anything that is free can't be as good as something that is paid for. And part of that's right, but I don't think it's really the main reason. But what people did think, and to be honest, what was actually a thing at the time was audio quality. People didn't think that GarageBand had the same audio quality as something like Pro Tools. Now, that wasn't really ever the case, but it kind of was. So when GarageBand was first released, the only bit rate and the only resolution you could use was 44.1 kilohertz and 16-bit audio. Other DAWs did start supporting 24-bit earlier than GarageBand. GarageBand has now caught up. So GarageBand now has 44.1 kilohertz and 24-bit audio. And on the Mac version, you can change the sampling rate as well. On iOS, 44.1 is what you stick with. And here's the thing. I don't know many people that record in anything but either 44.1 or 48 kilohertz and 24-bit. Yes, there's 32-bit and 32-bit float now, which you can use in things like Logic and Pro Tools, and you can't use in GarageBand. But I don't know a lot of people that use that. So I guess if you're in a professional high-end situation and you were using 32-bit float for everything, and you're using like 96 kilohertz or 192 kilohertz sampling rate, I don't know why you would, because there's arguments around the fact that you don't really get the benefit of having that additional sampling rate. And if you're not aware of sampling rate and bit rate and bit depth, actually, not bit rate, bit depth, I go into it in more detail in another video, which I probably need to refresh. Let's see if I can find it. Pete John's sampling rate, bit depth. I definitely had there it is. So if you search that, if you search my name, Pete Johns, sampling rate, bit depth, I go into detail in that video, 6-minute video, and it talks all about what the difference is between those things, which is interesting if you're into that sort of topic. Hello, Dell. Hope you are doing well. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. So the audio quality between other things in GarageBand, again, I think a lot of that's a perception thing. There are some people that honestly think that the audio engine is different. Problem there is that on iOS and even on a Mac or even on a PC, a lot of it comes down to the audio device, the hardware device that you're using. So a lot of the audio quality isn't to do with the software, it's to do with the hardware. And whether that hardware is running GarageBand or Logic or Pro Tools or Audacity or Fruity Loops, it really doesn't make any difference. The ones and zeros don't care. Remember that. Everything that you put in, even your analog instruments, are all converted into ones and zeros and then played back. Now, could the playback engine within a piece of software be a little better than another? Potentially, but the actual audio that's sitting there is the same ones and zeros. If you plug a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 and record in Pro Tools or GarageBand or Audacity, you're going to get the same ones and zeros. It all comes down to the quality of the analog instruments going in, the quality of your playing, and the quality of the converter of your audio interface to convert that analog signal into a digital signal, into ones and zeros. Jeremy says, I bought a 10-year-old Mac Mini just to run GarageBand after I got locked out of an iPad that I was gifted. Long story. Yeah, right. That sounds like an interesting story. You might have to share that with us one day. Yeah, and that's it. Like 32-bit float, just learn to set your level right. And that's the thing. The other thing is with GarageBand is some will say, oh, but you can't do this and you can't do this and you can't do this. Yep, all correct and fair. Most people won't need to do a lot of those things. And that's the thing. Probably something I should have said right up front. GarageBand won't be for everyone. It doesn't have to be. But the thing is, there's a lot of people out there that don't think anyone should ever use GarageBand. And I don't know how you get behind that. I think that's a statement of protection. And without going into a full psychoanalysis of analyzing of other folks, but there's two types of professionals that you're going to run into in the music world, especially online. There's the type of professionals who spend a lot of time in forums, a lot of time answering questions, usually a lot of time sprouting all the knowledge that they have and generally putting other people down because they're telling them that they don't know stuff and that they know more than what other people know. And then there's the type of professionals that just create music and do jobs and mix and master and record. They don't have time to spend time in forums. They don't have time. They let their music do the talking. They don't need the power. They don't need the ego stroking and the boost of putting other people down to make themselves feel good. So I always say you got to take with a giant grain of salt because I've spoken to those sort of professionals and it's rough. Like they just want to tell me all the things I'm doing wrong and all the reasons that they're good. And the problem is that there's kind of two ways to be great, isn't there? There's if you're mediocre, you want to push everyone down below you so that your mediocrity becomes the new standard. Or if you're amazing, you want to pull other people up because you actually don't care. You're not threatened by them because you know that you have confidence in your own ability to do the work. And every person I've spoken to that's actually a professional, that's actually at that high level, they love GarageBand. They love the idea that people can get started. They want more people creating more music because they don't care. They're like, I got more work than I know what to do with because I'm good at what I do. And I don't need my ego stroked. I don't need to hang out in forums. You've got to be really, really careful of who you take advice from. Because I've seen people that stopped making music because they started in GarageBand and they had a friend or someone that was, I've got 27. By the way, if any time anyone leads with how many years experience they have doing a thing, they're scared and they're not the people you should be listening to. So if someone said, I've been a professional studio engineer for 27 years, I think I know what I'm talking about, chances are they don't. Chances are they're stuck 27 years ago and they don't realize that everyone else moved on. They're probably still mixing on analog desks because they think that that's superior and they've never actually tried GarageBand. So they've actually got zero leg to stand on when it comes to this stuff. I know I get a little bit worked up about it because I really hate people pushing other people down. It makes no sense. It's only for the ego, and it's only due to the lack of self-esteem of the person doing the criticizing. And yeah, look, should it be all American Idol syndrome where we all tell each other that we're all wonderful all the time and no one gives any constructive feedback ever? No, that doesn't work either. But you can do a lot better by building people up and telling them what they can do to improve than telling them that they suck, and using GarageBand means that they suck even more. A lot of people think that there's a lack of plugins in the oh no, the GarageBand doesn't have enough plugins. I need all my plugins. And again, that was kind of true, but guess what? GarageBand on Mac is full support for all your audio units. GarageBand on iOS, AUV3, baby. There's not a lot that you can't do in terms of plugins now that you can do in higher end software. Sure, you don't get as many built-in stock plugins. If you compare the stock plugins of something like Logic Pro with the stock plugins of GarageBand, yeah, of course. But guess what? If there's not a plugin that's in GarageBand and you want to use it, just go get one. Like there's plugins galore. Go over to Jade Starr's channel. She's covered a gazillion of them. So yeah, that was another early on thing where people are like, oh no, you definitely can't. You can't use GarageBand because you don't have all the plugins that you need, and it doesn't really make sense. And exactly as Ed B says, Ed B. I've got Ed B here and Eric B here. As Eric B says, plugins can be a crutch for not practicing. That's it. Get it right at the source. In fact, yeah, I would argue, and I'd say that if you can't make a good song using the stock EQ, reverb, delay in GarageBand, you got no business fiddling about and faffing about with higher end stuff because you need to understand the basics. And GarageBand is wonderful at helping you understand the basics because you don't have a lot to play with. You've got to work out what EQ does and what compression does and what reverb and delay do. And that's your basics. You can sweeten up a mix really nicely with just those 4 plugins: EQ, compression, reverb, delay. It could be gold. Ed Z, hello to you. I love Ed's logo there that he has. It's just Ed. Looks good. Looks perfect. So plugins is another thing that people talk about. Quick drink. The limitations. Now, this one, I'm going to give you a pass on this because, yes, there are limitations in GarageBand. If a lot of your workflow involves using detailed mixing matrices, if you're using lots of sends and receives and aux buses, GarageBand's not for you. You need something like the power of Logic or Pro Tools or something that has a lot more access to buses. However, for the most part, a lot of folks don't. And this is the thing, when people say, oh, I don't like the limitations of GarageBand, I'll always shoot back to say, what was the last limitation that you came across? And they'll say, I can't automate my effects. And I say, how often do you want to automate your effects? And they're like, oh, this one time. I wanted to automate my effects. I was like, okay, fair enough. So, of the last 20 songs you've done, you've wanted to do it once. Okay, maybe GarageBand's okay for you. Maybe you can use the little workaround hack where you create a second track and automate the effects only on that track, which I show in a video handily here on the channel. So there's workarounds for the limitations you get. And I've always said to folks, going from GarageBand to something else is not going to instantly improve your music. In fact, it's probably going to make it worse. Think folks like Joe and Barry Glenn are learning this at the moment the hard way. There's a learning curve. And going from GarageBand, which holds your hand, and that's another thing people don't like. Oh, it's holds your hand too much. Can't tell it what you want to do. It tells you what it wants to do. Yeah, it does. So GarageBand holds your hand, and it guides you and it directs you into the way. But that will create limitations for some folks. But it's not until you've actually mastered those. I think there actually needs to be. I'll flip it around and say that you shouldn't be allowed to use Logic until you've done at least a 12-month GarageBand apprenticeship because it really does help you. Like, the reason that for the first 7 years of this channel, I didn't touch Logic is because I wasn't ready. Like, if GarageBand was doing everything I needed to do for my music, and it was only because I had a lot of people that were asking about Logic, that were making the shift, that were a little ahead of me, that I thought as a coach, as a teacher, as a educator, it's in my best interest to actually start learning. So I have. And once Logic came out on the iPad, well, then it made a lot more sense because this channel is very iOS and iPad focused. So that's when I learned it. But do I use 90% of the additional features that we have in Logic? No. I basically use Logic like I used to use GarageBand, just with a few little enhancements. And those being the master bus. I love a master bus, and that's one of the reasons why I don't mix or master in GarageBand anymore. Because, yeah, you've only got those horizontal sliders. You can't see your dB levels. It's impossible to turn up or down a particular track by 1 or 2 dB because you're flying blind. And you don't have the flexibility of that. And you don't have the ability to turn off the auto normalization on your exports. And I'm still fighting the fight on that one, folks. I think, here's my thought. Here's conspiracy time with Johns, all right? I think that the reason that they haven't added this, because if you don't know the big controversy around this, GarageBand on your Mac, there's a little button there that says auto normalize on export. Turn it on, turn it off. I think it's on by default, but turning it off is as simple as going to your control panel, turning it off. And what that means is that when you export, it won't lift the volume, the overall volume up to 0 dB. So here's the thing. Auto normalization is designed so that when someone records something at a lower volume, you don't export it and go, hey, why is this so quiet? It'll bring it up to that standard Unity volume. And that's good for a beginner when you're starting out and you don't really know about levels. It also protects you from overdoing it. So it actually adds a limiter. If you go over 0 dB, it'll limit you back down. So instead of you getting horrible distortion and crunching, you'll just get horrible pumping instead. It's a different kind of horrible, slightly less horrible. So I get all of that, and I get all that for beginners. But just put a button there. Of all the advanced settings we have with the crosstalk protection and the MIDI settings and all the other bits, just put a button there to turn it off. I think that the person that did the original code buried it somewhere in there, and they don't know where. There's a problem in the programming world of spaghetti code, which is exactly what it sounds like, where instead of having nice, neat chunks of code, GarageBand 1 would have been this, and then GarageBand 2, they kind of just tacked around it and put the new features on there. Have you ever had that thing with a piece of software where something gets added and it breaks something that has nothing to do with it? Yeah, that's usually because there was a call in the code up there, and when you added this in and it goes through there, it then goes off to a different place. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we have to pull that away so that that unbreaks and then try and tack it onto somewhere else. So I've got a feeling that, and I think this is what I think happened to music memos too. I think the reason that they gave up on music memos is that they probably developed it and then sort of added to it over time and then got to the point where they're like, we don't even really know how this works ourselves anymore. That's my theory anyway, because I've asked them a bunch of times, and every time, look, I don't want to make it sound like I talk to Apple. I just bring up the Apple hotline, but I've mentioned it to them, on the few occasions I've gotten to talk to them about GarageBand and about Logic, I've said, guys, if there's one thing you could do that would make so many of the community so happy, it would just be to put a button there. Like you've got it on Mac, put a button there to turn off auto, and they're just like, oh, no, non-committal, non-committal, non-committal. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Nothing worse than a horrible pumping. Absolutely, deep gravity. But not you. Yeah, and that's the thing. You can use more things. Like there are, and this is what I say. There's always workarounds. There's always plugins. There's always things that you can use that are going to work around the problem. Some people will say it's easier to just use something else that doesn't have the problem. I think this is similar on programs, especially wonderful for people with physical challenges. I have many friends who are disabled and don't have the opportunity to make music. Absolutely. And that's the thing. When I saw the latest Logic update to 2.1, when I saw the 3 pages of accessibility enhancements, improvements, and fixes, made me feel really good. Because I know that there's many people in this community. There's some of you that are listening to this right now that are either vision impaired or completely blind. Yet, through the power of voiceover, you're still able to create music on your iPhone or your iPad. And that's because GarageBand and Logic Pro and Apple in general actually do really heavily focus in on the accessibility of their software. GarageBand has helped me learn other doors. Yeah, such a good entry and still my go-to. I think so. Yeah, look, there's people that use other things. So Russ of Delicate Giants, he uses Nano Studio, exactly. And Pro Tools doesn't improve you, it confuses you. There you go, exactly. So yeah, there's options out there. It's what I got. What can I do? Buy Pro Tools? I don't think so. Hello to you. His name is Roy Perez. I hope you're doing well. You mentioned in yesterday's show, so I did see it, but I didn't have time to jump into it. You mentioned that you like DistroKid, but you couldn't get. It's hard to get hold of a person. Yeah, I agree with that. I think they definitely do try to filter you through all their automated stuff, and you can get hold of someone. I've had a few issues. You can get hold of someone, but normally you'll have to put in a ticket and then do a little bit of back and forth. But if you go to my guide, studiolivetoday.com/distrokid, there's links there that take you to the section of the bit where you put the ticket that actually creates a ticket, because otherwise you can quite easily get lost in the maze. There is a maze of kind of, and I get it. They want you to use their Zendesk stuff. They want you to use the information on the website before you actually use a person. Because DistroKid have grown massively, and businesses like that do have challenges with support because they have a great product at a very reasonable price, and in order to keep that great product at a reasonable price, yeah, they have to ensure that they have optimal numbers of staff and people to answer questions, which means not having too many that are sitting around twiddling their thumbs, but also being able to get onto the serious issues. So hopefully that helps you out. Yeah, it's emailed, and that's the problem. Like, instead of being able to just talk to someone, and look, it's a customer service problem in general these days. I think that a lot of companies that you play email tag back and forth, rather than, if you could just jump on the phone or a web chat with a person, you could probably hash it out pretty easily. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll openly admit, I don't think they would say that they're perfect either. It is. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to get the level, the balance level. However, they are still easier to get hold of than my work daddy, which is YouTube. If you've ever tried to get hold of a human at Google or YouTube, good luck, I'll say. All right. Bradley McKnight says, I love how much Apple focus on accessibility. Currently learning Logic Pro 11 on my new MacBook with VoiceOver, and I'm loving the music I can create. Yeah, there you go. Bradley, right here. A vision impaired guy creates great music. It's actually possible. And a lot of people, it's hard. There's another artist, Omni Collective Creativity, who did a Omni Collective Creativity voiceover. He did a demonstration video, and I might be able to play a little bit. Yeah, how a blind guy creates a song in GarageBand iOS with voiceover. Can I play a little bit of this? I'm assuming that Omni will be okay with this because he shared it publicly. here on YouTube a couple of years ago. But I just want to play you a little bit of this because if you've never seen someone do something, I know we're going off topic a bit, but we're kind of not, because this is, again, why when people are hating on GarageBand, they need to sort of stop and think about it, because this is what GarageBand on iOS looks like and sounds like, more importantly, with voiceover. Take a look and a listen.
Center of screen. My Songs button. Live Loops button 1 of 2. Selected Tracks button 2 of 2. Drums button. Create beats using a variety of acoustic and electronic drums. Smart drums, acoustic drum, beat sequencer button, beat sequencer. Subkick, step 2 of 6, step 1, row header button, ruler, songs, subkick, row header button. Row settings, heading, kit pieces, step length button, playback mode button, randomize step on reset button, delete button.
So there is no video on that one. I thought, oh, there's one that does have the video. Sorry. I'll go to the section that has video.
Select track controls button, select 71, 66, 57%. 61, track -0.5, file set 2029. Browser, instrument selected, track control, stop button.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I've watched the whole thing before. I forgot that the start of it didn't have the video there. But as you go through, yeah, it is phenomenal how Omni does this. Like, all the different settings, and I'm just sort of scrolling through here now. But like, think about when you're building a song and finding the right loops and finding the right settings and adjusting your panning and adjusting your effects and adding reverb and adding EQ. And then think about how you do that if instead of just looking at your screen and tapping a button, you had to find it by hearing the voiceover. And yeah, it's amazing how quick it is. There was also another one where he showed how he watches a YouTube video, and he's got the audio of someone like me talking on a show like this, but all the comments are popping up at the same time. And then he's talking back to it to create a comment to put on. Oh, it blows me away. It's phenomenal. Thank you, Mark. Mark's thrown the link there for Omni Collective's video if you want to go and check that one out. I had a question while we're off the topic. How did you find the process of swapping to Mac GarageBand from iPad and navigating the UI differences? I still struggle. I'll be very honest with you. I'm still in the iOS iPad world when it comes to my music creation. I can do it, but it doesn't come naturally on Mac even now. So I don't use GarageBand or Logic on the Mac very much. A lot of people have been asking me lately, with all the advancements and how cheap Macs are now and the additional features you get on Mac, would you buy a new iPad or a new Mac now? And my answer is, for me, because I've got nearly a decade's worth of knowledge and muscle memory built in GarageBand iOS and now Logic Pro iPad, I would stick on iPad, because at 45, the old brain doesn't learn new things quite like it used to. Never used to learn things great anyway, but it struggles to learn new things. And I just find that, yeah, having the touch interface really helps me personally. I'm a very hands-on, tactile kind of person, and I like to actually be moving things around with my fingers. And as soon as I have a mouse, I don't know, it's not quite the same, to the point where even when I'm doing a demonstration, so when I'm on here and I'm using the mouse, like I'll normally just grab things and move them around using my finger. When I have to demonstrate using the trackpad and tap on things, I find it a bit clunkier because I'm so accustomed after so many years to actually touch things. So look, it's doable, and Patrick over at the GarageBand Guide is where I'd send you, because he's covered a lot of that sort of stuff. And in fact, you know what Patrick should do? He should do a full series on this. I'd love to. I don't think I'm the right person to do it because I'm not good enough at GarageBand Mac. I don't have enough knowledge. But someone like Patrick, yeah, he probably already has some videos, but it would be great to have an updated video showing the major differences, or like a guide to moving from iOS to Mac, because I think there's a lot of people doing it. Maybe if he doesn't do it, I'll do it eventually, but I have to learn more things before I go ahead and do that. Hello, Joe. What do you know? Hope you're doing well. I'm in an iOS state of mind. Yeah. Yep. How good is the conversations from an Italian restaurant? If you missed this, we're going way off on track here. But there's a group conversations from Italian restaurant. Um, conversation scenes from an Italian restaurant. That's what it was. There's a group that did that one. I'll get the. Well, I think it was conversation scenes from that had like Weird Al in it, but it also had like all these Hollywood actors, and they did this. Yeah, there it is. This video here, and I'm not going to play much of it or the audio, but it's these guys. Speaking of garage bands, like check out this garage band. Check out what these guys have got going on. I can't remember the name of that dude, but he's and they're called the Middle Aged Dad Jam Band. And there are all these dudes that hang out in this garage and dudettes, and like, yeah, it's a really, really good version of scenes from an Italian restaurant. So go watch that. I'll throw the version here, and I figure you're not seeing any of that, are you? I was doing so well too. Yeah, so it's these folks here. They're in the garage jamming it up. It's very, very cool. So I won't play it because I'll get a copyright claim, but I'll throw it there. Middle-aged dad band, absolutely, they are cool. They're very cool. And there is the GarageBand guide if you want to learn more GarageBand stuff. Yeah, go watch that video after this one. It's very, very cool. You'll enjoy it. Yeah. Sorry, that was me bad. My bad there, Mark. I was doing okay today too. All right, we're coming towards the end here. Did I have any other notes here? Hardware support of GarageBand. A lot of people say, oh, it doesn't support my 8-channel Firewire interface. Like, well, yeah, okay, I get it. The thing is, if you're using $1,000 interface, probably not going to use a free piece of software. Probably are going to use something more complex. So I get that there is some hardware support limitations. The mixer we've talked about, the sends and the buses. And you know what I think is the number one thing? Number one reason that folks hate on GarageBand is I think that they think it would damage their reputation. I've had very few people that have come in here to the studio, but the few people that have, when I open up GarageBand on an iPad, they're quite surprised. And I've had people say things like, oh, I thought you did this professionally. So I think that there's a lot of folks that that was unpleasant. I think there's a lot of people that they're like, it's a bit like the fashion things. Like, I wouldn't be caught dead wearing Crocs. People, I wouldn't be caught dead using GarageBand to produce music. So I think a lot of it comes down to perception and reputation, and people thinking that, yeah, you're not serious. You're not a real professional. You're not a professional musician if you're using GarageBand. And I just don't think that's the case these days. It's so different. Like again, I people sort of use sports analogies and things, and someone has said this to me before. Um, when I've said that everyone should have the freedom to be able to create, record, and release their own music, they say, "Oh, well, no. If you compare it to like football, soccer, because they were European, you can't compare yourself. You can't be a professional. You've got to be at the top level. Like there's only 10,000 football players that are professional, and then there's 2 million football players that are sort of semi-professional that play in leagues, and then there's 10 million players who just have a kickabout on the weekend." And the kickabout on the weekend people shouldn't be in the same place as the 10,000 professionals. And I think it's a little bit different with music, personally, because the barrier to entry is not there. It's more like an open event. It's more like Wimbledon or the FA Cup or something like that, where everyone gets to compete, everyone gets to participate, and the cream will rise to the top. Again, the sort of people that say things like that you shouldn't be able to put your music out there if you're not at the level of a professional, I think they're missing the point. And I think they might be a little bit scared. They might be thinking, I actually want there to be a barrier to entry. I don't want people to be creating music because what if, stay with me here, what if one of these little GarageBand creators actually gets really freaking good and starts producing music that does take the world by storm? We've seen it before. There's producers that are using FL Studio and BandLab on their phones and making amazing beats. and getting popular on SoundCloud and then getting record deals and then going on tour. It could happen. And that's the thing. I think that is the wonderful thing about GarageBand is I know that my kids and your kids and everyone starting out and 70-year-olds that are creating music for the first time that played in bands back in the 70s and 80s, everyone has an equal opportunity to create good quality music. It's not the days of old where you had to have $10,000 worth of recording kit or pay for expensive studio time in order to create great sounding music. We all have the ability to plug in a $100 interface and a $100 microphone, plug it into our phone or our tablet or our computer, and record high quality digital audio, and then mix it and master it and release it because we can. And look, you can complain about it, not you, but the people that complain about it, but you're not going to put the genie back in the bottle, are you? It's already out there. It's already done. We already have the ability to release our music to the world. So that is where it's at. Hello, there is Omni. Ears must have been burning, my friend. Omni Collective Creativity. We were just showing you a video of where you showed how you create music on iPhone, which is very cool. The only barrier of entry digital audio workstation is compatible with a screen reader, and if it's not, then there's agenda behind it. Yeah, an ableist agenda. Yeah. So does that mean Pro Tools has an ableist agenda? GarageBand better when I'm using MIDI keyboard with MIDI out though through an interface to make more complex melody. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now I do think that some DAWs are better for certain styles than other. Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't create the music. The reason I don't use Ableton or FL Studio is that I've got a very linear creation workflow. My workflow is basically exactly what I used to do on a 4-track tape recorder, but I just do it on a digital one now. Whereas if you're making electronic music, or you're using a lot of loops and samples, yeah, Ableton Fruity Loops are going to be good. And as Deep Gravity says, what we always come back to, yep, Rihanna used one of the GarageBand loops for the song Umbrella. And Grimes also uses GarageBand. Absolutely. There are options out there. I dare to say I'm still using my old Steinberg UR22 like you. Yeah, I've still got the Steinberg UR22C plugged in here. I only recently moved from the UR12. Like I was using that up to a few years ago. But yeah, the UR22 is good. It's just solid. It just works. So yeah. Hello, Raul. It's about the song, not the software. Absolutely. It is. You need a good song. I've always said a great song recorded on a phone is better than a crap song recorded in $1 million studio. Absolutely. Class compliant 32 channel Neve console. Exactly. It is. A lot of it's musical snobbery, isn't it? It is. All righty. We've come to the end. As you can tell by my voice, I need to have myself a little break. I need to step away from the microphone for a couple of days, which is exactly what I'll be doing. But don't forget, you got heaps more entertainment coming up. We've got Frank Terzo and the Community Pulse. You'll be sent over there straight after this one. Frank always has wonderful guests on and talks about all the things and the happenings going on in the community. So a good old time. That is right. I'd kind of forgotten about that, Deep Gravity. I forgot that the UR12 lives on and is still going solid. Excellent to hear. See, I completely left my mind. I'm like, do I still have that somewhere? No, but I'm glad it's going. I'm glad it's being used. Do you think GarageBand will give us the ability to use stems anytime soon? I mean, you can use stems in GarageBand. You can import stems, but it's a very slow process. I think that's one of the things that Apple want you to move up to Logic Pro for. And with the change they've just made to importing and exporting audio in Logic Pro, I think if you're going to use stems, you probably want Logic for that. So I've showed how you can do it before, but again, it's a one-by-one moving stuff in, which takes a while. So it's not optimal for that. That is going to do it, folks. Don't forget, You Rock, also Wednesday night or Thursday morning, depending where you are in the world, over on Thomas Christ's channel. You'll hear lots of very cool music over there as well. That is going to do it for this one. Yeah, if you are here late or you're watching on the replay and you've got other questions or comments, drop them in the comments down below. If you had a good old time here today, hit the thumbs up button. If you thought it sucked and the GarageBand sucks and that I suck, thumbs down. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Thick-skinned YouTubers we are. Until next time, folks, please be kind to yourselves, Be kind to others. Keep creating. And I'll see you next time here on GarageBand Weekly. Bye for now.